She's Katy Montgomery. He's Justin Joseph. These best friends are serving subpoenas to bad advice weekly with Wrong Way Forward. Now, here's Katy and Justin.
Hi, and welcome to Wrong Way Forward. This is a podcast where we roast the worst advice. I'm Katy Montgomery, and I'm here with my best friend, Justin Joseph.
Hi, everybody.
And Justin, you know what's been on my mind lately? I'm kind of surprised that you're not a Real Housewives fan.
Yeah, maybe we should just dive into that alone. What is it about the Housewives that you and so many of my friends are obsessed with?
Well, I think first of all, I think it's interesting. I love that there's a diversity of housewives. I love that there's one in New York, there's one in Beverly Hills, there's one in Orange County, there's one in Salt Lake City. And I think it is mindless. You know, you're invested enough that you know the characters who stay on year to year and you kind of know the dynamic. And I've been watching enough of it that I kind of understand the algorithm, like how they bring, I guess, the drama to the table. But it's also mindless. Like, I don't have to think. And I think particularly, you know, in our current climate, it's just a way for me to let go and just kind of say, tonight, the biggest issue is whether Dorit and Sutton are going to get into a fight. And it's a way to escape my current life.
Is it Real World of today? Is that a fair? Because I remember I used to watch Real World.
Oh, we all did, Justin. We
Yeah.
were obsessed with it. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's that, but you have to imagine it's all female. It's usually a certain level of wealth. And they throw them into certain situations where there's always one or two girl trips. There's always an event. There could be
Okay.
a gala, a fundraiser, a luncheon in someone's Beverly Hills backyard, and it just kind of brings the drama and who's being triggered, who's responding, who's showing empathy, who's apologizing.
Yeah, my version of mindless television is any version of a competition cooking show or a competition like Big Brother or Traders. But for me, this will not surprise you, there needs to be a winner and a loser. That's where Real Housewives fails.
No, there are winners and losers, because I could tell you, Andy Cohen will not renew your contract if you are not agreeable and if the audience does not approve nor cares for you. So there are winners and losers.
Okay.
But what brings me to this topic is that I've been watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and there are a number of main characters who have been through recent divorces or recent separations or in the middle of nasty divorces. And in more than one occasion, particularly Kyle Richards, she is not divorced, but they are separated. Her ex, Mauricio, and then Dorit, her ex, PK. And then even, they've brought back Zoe. Why can't I think of her? Not her Rachel Zoe. Excuse me, Rachel Zoe. That's what I meant.
I know Rachel Zoe.
Yeah, they brought Rachel Zoe back, and she and her husband, who were like college
Her
sweethearts,
new husband, right?
at GW. Her ex-husband, have also separated.
Right.
And all of these men have gone on to find other women.
Shocking.
But I think and mind you, I don't find any of these three men to be a great catch. None of them are incredibly handsome or honorable or interesting, but they have all been caught kissing, hugging, either ass grabbing, someone jumping up and straddling around their waist in public by paparazzi. And I think that's the wrong way forward. All of these people have children. I think there is a certain understanding that if you are breaking up a relationship, even if it has been toxic and uncomfortable, there is just a polite way to handle the transition before finding someone else. And I think the appropriate way to do that is to be photographed in public, PDA-ing.
Do you think it's slutty or you think it's just inappropriate or both?
I mean, I don't even think the word slutty comes to mind. I just think it's inconsiderate. I think it's hurtful. I think it's not considering your children. It's a transition for children to see you not with their other parent. And I think it's callous, and I think it's entitled, and I think it's selfish.
Okay, well, I'm going to disagree a little bit with you because I do think, from over the years, having gone through breakups with friends, my one advice I always say is you got to meet someone else and move on. Even if it's, meet someone else in the short term for things you do in the short term, I do think that's the way you break an old relationship. You break an old obsession, if you will, with your past ex, is to find the next whomever, even if that whomever is only for a week, a month, etc. So
You believe in order to get over someone, you need to get under someone.
for sure.
Gross.
I mean, God, not in your 80s, but I still like to think in my head that I'm in my 30s. But yeah, I think breakup sex is the way to go, don't you? I mean, there's a reason they call it that.
Yeah, but I think I'm not talking about moving on. I'm talking about being discreet and moving on, or being respectful and moving on, or considering how that looks, and how that might make someone feel. I think it's just, maybe doing it, in privacy for a while while it's still so raw and real and new, and while particularly children are getting up to speed, on what's happening.
Well, but we can agree that everybody has a right to move on. We certainly agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. But I just think there's a way to do that.
Well, I think the problem for these people is that they are in the public eye. I mean, they're doing, I guess my point is they're not doing anything different than you or I maybe would be doing if we broke up, but the paparazzi follows them around and is catching them doing these things.
Well, I think these people are also aware of the paparazzi, and they also know if you are, having somebody jump and put their legs around your waist in the middle of an airport, you're going to get caught. I mean, I'm talking about.
Is that happening?
Yes, this happened with Mauricio, Kyle's, ex.
Yeah.
PK, who is pretty disgusting, had a makeout session in the middle of like LA in front of a like famous, restaurant. That's what I'm talking about. Is it's like, go have a quiet dinner, go to a movie, go see a show with a group, invite someone over to your home.
Well, let me ask you this. Does it make a difference if they are the aggrieved party and not the aggrieving party?
I think either way. I'm like, I think about this all the time about Tiger Woods.
Oh, Tiger! I thought you were thinking about Real Housewives. Like, well,
I mean, I do. They do take up quite a bit of my brain space.
But you were saying Tiger Woods?
Yes, this is what I think about Tiger Woods. Do you remember when like everything came to light about Tiger Woods, and then he was
Being
like
a big slur,
a sex addict, all these things, and I just think about these poor children Googling their dad and seeing all that stuff. I mean, there's just certain things that you don't need to know about your parents, particularly on real adult topics like that at a certain age. And so I think even if Kyle or Dorit, who, are, for lack of a better word, the innocent party, for them, I think, I would also suggest in the transition to be a little, considerate of others, particularly your children.
Well, we don't disagree on that. What's funny, though, is, this has been going on since the history of time. I mean, think about all the historical examples of this exact same thing taking place. Like, remember when Brad Pitt dumped Jennifer Aniston for Angelina Jolie? And it was
that turned out real well. That was a winning couple.
But it broke the internet. Remember, it was a huge deal because he dumped her for Angelina back then. And you've got examples with, Jennifer Lopez and not Brad Pitt, Ben Affleck, when they broke up the first time and he went on with Ana de Armas. Charles and Diana, for example, when he went on and he was canoodling Camellia or whatever her name is. It's men have been doing this forever.
Yeah, and I think it's the wrong way forward. Again, I don't have a problem with moving on, but it's like, be discreet, be respectful. And, I remember I had a boss, and he went through a divorce, and we were at a dinner party, and he just started talking absolute crap about his ex and saying things like, from 30 years ago, like when they were like lovebirds and young and before they had children. And I just looked at him at the table. And of course, everyone was just, oh my gosh, Katy, I can't believe you said that. And I'm like, that's not nice and that's not accurate. Yeah, in retrospect, you can look back and say the last 30 years have been pure shit. But I'm like, you have 2 kids, you've built a life together, you've made investments, both financial and, emotional. and just to kind of say that is nasty. And so I just
How did
think,
he take that?
I mean, he was kind of a wuss, so he kind of just had another drink and then left early.
And he was no longer your boss after that, I'm assuming.
He's no longer, well, he ended up marrying some young thing, and of course, it's the, exact kind of, movie, plot that
Cliche.
you expect. Yes, so touche. But again, in the transition, it's like, I know it's hard and there's a lot of wrapped up emotions there, but I think this is the wrong way forward, which I think leads us to us having another relationship episode today, Justin. And I think in the next block, we're going to talk about the next new trend in dating, which I think is the wrong way forward.
All right, we'll talk about that on the other side. We'll be right back.
You've been listening to Wrong Way Forward, where bad advice goes to die and then gets resurrected just so we can roast it again.
If you're enjoying the chaos, hit like and subscribe and come back every Thursday for new episodes.
Have a new topic or some disastrously bad advice you want to dissect? Email wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Include your contact info.
Now back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward. Justin Joseph and Katy Montgomery here. We are talking about all things housewives, a little bit, and all things dating, which we have some new trends and topics to talk about this week. Of course, we invite you to participate in the conversation. You can email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we always have our text line. That number is 720-251-4450. Again, 720-251-4450. Katy, this week we're also talking about a new dating trend called future faking. What is that? And tell us what's wrong with it.
So the new trend that we're hearing about is future faking is when a narcissist or a toxic person. So I think first element is not good people. What they do is to promises to fulfill your desire to do something in the future to get something that they want in the present. So the example that they're giving on that in dating is like you're on a dating app and someone future fakes you by saying, where will we go on our first date? Or I can't wait to take you out. Or when I get to see you, we will. But then they never follow up. They never do something in the present. And so the idea is a lot of people use future faking, not just in dating, but you can see it in the professional world and kind of your other personal relationships. But the idea is it's a way for this narcissist or toxic person to kind of get away scot-free. So when somebody says something like, well, when are we going to schedule the date? Or how about we make some plans? And they're like, you just wait and see. It's going to be so much fun. So they get off, they delay commitment. So this is a person who talks a lot in the future. They can do this particularly in the workplace. It could be like they promise you something in the future to obtain resources. So that could be, I'm really looking forward next year in promoting you when we do the salary review 6 months from now. So it's always something in the future to get you to do something now.
So it's basically like a con artist with a Pinterest board.
That's a complicated analogy, and I think you have to think through that a lot. But it's really these are people who are conflict avoidant, right? And I think it is the wrong way forward. I think it is nasty. I think it is manipulative. I think it is not kind. And I think we need to give advice to these people who are being future faked how to catch on to this bullshit.
Well, I agree, but I think this has been going on since the beginning of time where...
Justin, that's not an excuse.
No, it's not an excuse. But I just love that this is this new trend. I'm like, how many times have men been lying to women about the life they're going to give them for 1,000,000 years and that life never comes? How many times have we heard the story about he hasn't put a ring on the finger, but he's told me he's going to?
Well, and I think, I saw this great piece of advice in an article that Katy Couric Media wrote about future faking. And they said, trust the patterns, not the projections. And I think that is actually the right way forward. That's really great advice, is like when you're hearing these projections, actually look at patterns. So at work, are you seeing them take active steps to get you the resources, to get you the promotion. I had a conversation with someone the other day. I do a lot of coaching for one organization. And I said, if I had $1 for every manager who says, I'm going to be retiring soon,
Oh gosh, yeah.
and is not given a timeline, has not given official notice, and it's creating chaos in these organizations because people are jockeying for that role. They're uncomfortable in the ambiguity. And I'm like, don't trust the projection, trust the pattern. The pattern would be, I've given notice. We've done a 6 months legacy plan, right? We're doing I've seen the job description for the replacement. So how do you do that in dating, particularly when you have not yet even met the person, but somebody's stringing you along? I remember online dating, and these guys are like, do you want to talk on the phone? Do you want to text? Do you want to talk on the phone? And I'm like, what are we doing? This is so weird. Like, I don't need any more friends. And that was future faking now that I'm realizing it.
And so that's interesting that because you're right, it does show up in work as well. The promise of the raise, like you said, the promise of promotion, the promise of retirement. And so what's the assertive right way forward to handle it in either situation? What are you telling your clients?
Well, I think first of all, it's what are the patterns and what are you seeing? I think sometimes people just aren't having the revelation that they're being future faked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's first, being aware of what's happening. And I think it's number two, trying to be more specific. A lot of times coaching is where's the specificity around this, right? What is the request? What is the expectation? What is the outcome? And people are scared to be specific in their requests. So I think that's a lot. I think what's really interesting in relationships is we can talk about like not just the future faking in dating, but the future faking in day to day. It can be, when you have conflict around an issue. So conflict around an issue is like, I'd like us to go to therapy together. Yes, I would love to go to therapy. Let's talk about that. And then it never happens. Or I'm going to stop drinking, and it never happens. And so, I think again is how do we get people to recognize that these people are manipulating them by promising something in the future in order for them to get something in the present. And sometimes getting something in the present can just be like, I want you to shut up and quit riding my ass.
So that's really the bottom line. It's manipulation.
Oh, yeah. And Justin, I thought you'd love this one because you're a fan of manipulation.
Wait, it's the carrot and the stick? Is carrot and the stick with manipulation?
I don't know if carrot and stick's manipulation. I think it's, which one works necessarily. But I think this is something that I think particularly now, people being primarily digital need to be very aware of this. Particularly is, what is your intention with online dating? What is your intention in dating? If it is just company and having someone to talk to and just to flirt, that's fine. But again, look for the patterns, not the projections.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Well, that's future faking. We also were talking about some of the New York Times article kind of talked about this, which like the best breakup lines of the day. And I know we went back and forth over some of them. What did you think about that article?
Well, I thought some were pretty hysterical. I'm going to have to, put on my glasses. But some of you might be very familiar with the column Modern Love on New York Times. And what they did was they kind of asked readers to give their best breakup lines. And I thought some of these were definitely the wrong way forward. I think one of them was, I know it sounds selfish, he said, but your family just doesn't have enough money. That's the wrong way forward. But I think, Justin, you might argue that's the right way forward. And so that person, the receiver, the recipient of that message knows exactly what they're dealing with.
No, I don't think that's the right way forward. Unless that's what you're going into a relationship for, is to be taken care of. And I do have friends that'll be very upfront about that and say, I want to marry well. And, I guess I don't have a problem with that if that's what they want. But like, I thought some of the funny ones were like, one of them said, I'm pathetic now. My face is this is a girl saying, I'm pathetic now. Actually, I said with my face smeared with mascara, but check back in 5 years because I'll be fine and you'll still be you. I thought that was pretty funny. Very self-aware.
Is that the wrong way forward or the right way forward?
Well, that's the wrong way forward. She sounds pathetic, and any man saying that same thing would sound pathetic as well. I also like the 27-year-old who said to the 45-year-old when she said, I need someone close to my age, so you just use me for sex? Well, no shit. These people,
Well, the thing that I thought was interesting is there was one that says, it wasn't anything you did, my first real girlfriend said. You were a great boyfriend. I mean, I'd even write you a letter of recommendation. And I thought what was interesting is I took these breakups, I gave a hyperlink and I put it into ChatGPT and I said, what's the theme here? And I thought it was really interesting. It said the theme is that these breakups take a professional tone or brutally honest, bizarre, or cruel. And I think, again, if we're kind of talking about relationships and we're talking about what to do when you break up, listen, men of Real Housewives, it's like, what is the actual language you're using? And I would say if you tend towards the professional, brutally honest, bizarre, or cruel, you're probably doing it the wrong way forward.
Oh, I disagree. I think if you're doing it brutally honest, that is A-okay. You should be brutally honest. Like, I'm no longer attracted to you. You're too young. I want to have sex with someone my own age. Said Justin, no one ever.
Why would you want to hurt someone and
well, you can be brutally honest without being cruel.
I think the word brutal indicates cruelty and meanness. Actually, I want to just look up the real definition of the word brutal. Brutal, I can't even say this word. Punishingly hard or uncomfortable. The example it gives is the brutal winter wind. It is direct and lacking any attempt to disguise unpleasantness.
Ask it for a brutal example, an example of breaking up that's brutally honest. Give us a few examples of that. I'd be interested in that. But I would also say while you're doing that, like, frequently the truth is brutal. And it could be like, I'm not attracted to you anymore. There's a number of things that are the truth, and just because they are truth, they are automatically brutal. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong way forward. The other things you talked about were cruelty. Of course, I am not a fan of being cruel to someone.
Just brutal.
Just brutal. So give us some examples of what brutal honesty looks like, please.
So ChatGPT, I said, give me an example of a brutal breakup line. And the response was, ouch. See, so it hurts. Brutal hurts. And again, I don't think when you break up, you need to hurt someone.
Right.
And so it says, here's one that tends to leave a mark because it just doesn't end the relationship. It retroactively diminishes it. I realize that I don't actually miss you when you're gone. I just miss the version of myself I was before I met you.
Okay. I think that is a great example that we can agree to disagree, because I think that's honest, and it's just, I mean, there's no gray area there. I love it.
But I think there's no gray area, but it's sending you into a dark hole.
Here's one. I care about you. I just don't want a future with you. I've known that for a while, and I stayed because I was comfortable. That wasn't fair to you, and I'm sorry. Look, I love that one. I care about you. I mean,
that's maybe a little less brutal. I think there's a little clause in there you could have cut and still had the same, it could have landed and still had the same objective.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, we'll talk more about this on the other side. We're also going to take a couple viewer emails from our episode last week on the Beckhams. We'll be back right after this.
Thanks for streaming Wrong Way Forward, the weekly reminder that advice is usually free for a reason. We call out bad advice wherever it hides: boardrooms, break rooms, and even book clubs.
Enjoying this dumpster fire? Like, subscribe, and check back every Thursday for new episodes. Want us to roast your favorite piece of nonsense? Email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to include your contact info. We're not psychic, just judgmental. And now, back to Wrong Way Forward.
Roasting the worst advice ever. Welcome back to the Katy and Justin.
And we're back. And clearly Justin does not understand that being brutal is nasty. And so we think we might do a future episode about what does it mean to be brutally honest, and is that the wrong or right way forward? So if you have an example of where your brutal honesty has worked or has bombed, or you've been the recipient of brutal honesty and you appreciated it, or it sent you, into a deep depression, please send us an email at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com, because we'd love to kind of dissect that, because I think Justin's pro brutality and I'm kind of pro peace.
And you can also text us on our text line at 720-251-4450. Has brutal honesty got a bad rap? That's going to be the subject of our next week's episode. And clearly we are going to have some headbutting on this. So we'll talk about that next week.
And Justin, I think that just, segues great into a text that I got based on our Am I a Karen episode. And so I get, a text from a friend that's like, also, Justin is without a doubt Karen. And he is also Enneagram 8. So do you know what the Enneagram is?
No, but I'm good. I want to know right this second.
Yeah. So when I looked up 8, first of all, I got that text. I immediately Googled
I don't even know how to spell Enneagram. How do you spell
Enneagram
that?
8. And Justin, so first of all, they each have kind of a title behind it. So Enneagram 8 is known as, it's an assessment, and Enneagram 8 is known as the Challenger. Oh. So right there, I was like, tracks.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And it says, is a powerful, assertive, and protective personality type driven by a need to control their environment to avoid being harmed or controlled by others. They are direct, confident, decisive, often acting as natural leaders, but can struggle with vulnerability and appearing intimidating.
Wow. Okay, Enneagram 8. So I'm crazy 8. Go on.
Yes, you're crazy 8. So I think, I've taken the Enneagram. And I think we should both take the Enneagram. We'd also love to hear, that would be also a great future episode. I know a lot of people are obsessed with the Enneagram. Is it the wrong way forward to rely on that? Is it the wrong way forward to start to type your friends? Or is this all in good fun? Love to hear about that too.
Yeah, I would love to hear about that too. And I disagree. I am not a Karen, or let me put it this way. I do not strive to be a Karen. I think probably we've all had Karen moments. But I think
you love brutal honesty and
I
escalation
love brutal honesty, yes.
and manipulation.
And I did leave a 1-star review before 6 a.m. this morning to someone who upset me. So.
But he's not a Karen, y'all.
He's not a Karen. Well, our car broke down last night, and these people said, just tow it to us. And this morning they said we couldn't get you in for 3 weeks. And I was like, I just spent $250 to tow my car to you. This should have been told to me last night. Anyway, we got another viewer email here. I really like this one. Hi, Katy and Justin. Last week, this is me speaking. Last week, we talked about one of the Beckham children and that he was making a fight with his parents public. This person wrote in. Oh, and I'd also said that this was an example of the Prince Harry, Charles situation. This person wrote in and said, I appreciated that you all didn't agree on the Prince Harry Meghan conversation. It felt like a real disagreement, not performative balance. They're talking about Katy and myself. As a woman who's often labeled strong, I've seen men either shrink or overcompensate around that, and neither dynamic is healthy. I didn't hear Justin as sexist, but I did hear a lack of nuance. Katy's pushback added it. That's why the conversation worked. Keep disagreeing. It's the best part. I love that, and I think that's really...
And I have to say, we do get a lot of feedback. People like it when we disagree, and Justin is always finding ways for us to disagree.
Because I didn't realize brutal honesty was going to be something we were going to disagree about.
Well, I thought you knew the definition of brutal.
Well, brutal, I just think it's gotten a bad rap.
I mean, brutal even sounds like the word itself sounds cutting and nasty.
This again, just where we see life differently. That life is cutting and nasty. That doesn't mean it's cruel. So I would like to draw a line difference between brutal and cruel. Oh, viewers are going to have a field day with this. So we're going to take up this entire thing on next week's episode of Wrong Way Forward. Send us your thoughts. Thank you for listening once again. And email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com. You can also text us on our text line at 720-251-4450. We'll see you guys next week on Wrong Way Forward.
All right, that's a wrap on this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward. Remember, the only thing worse than taking bad advice is giving it.
If you've liked what you've heard, like, subscribe, or follow us wherever you stream podcasts. And if you've got a topic or need some advice we'll probably regret giving, email us at wrongwayforwardpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Wrong Way Forward.